Hey everybody, welcome to PixelBlips podcast. I'm Andy Ryan, that's Dave DeWert. We're going to do a pretty interesting episode this week, considering that right now I'm probably sitting at home as you're watching this with my eyelids pulled back and my pupils dilated as I stare into the yawning abyss
PS4
of the next generation.
I hate you so much right now. I'll hate you so much more next Sunday.
Maybe the UPS guy forgets to bring it or something. I don't know.
I hope he forgets it.
We probably shouldn't say we shouldn't.
Because now it's going to happen. You're not going to get your system until like Christmas, and you're going to be sad.
So if I don't get it until Christmas, Amazon.com owes me money. But anywho, hi. What we're going to talk this time about as the next system dawns, so also must the previous system sunset. As we all know from the PS2 days, that the PS3 has 2, maybe 3 more years of really good primary focus still going for it.
Yeah, and considering that they put the PS2 to bed early this year, they stopped making them. I'd say at least another 4 or 5 in production.
Well, I'm just talking. I'm talking about having a spot
in the lineup.
Yeah, having a place in the lineup.
Like it's something they talk about at E3 every year for at least another 2 or 3 years. Like, don't forget, we didn't forget about you PS3 guys. Here's all these cool games.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about like what the PlayStation 3 means to us, and what the PlayStation 3 means to me is hand in hand with Uncharted. Like I remember when the PS3 was announced, they had all these great promises of at that point what the next generation was, and saying that you'd be able to like have a story and actors and action and all this stuff. It'd be all believable. It'd be really cool, and they would finally grab onto that lifelike Hollywood action movie thing.
And they've done that a few times, not just from Naughty Dog and all that, but like
Heavy Rain.
You've seen that in Heavy Rain. You've seen that in Beyond Two Souls, like more recently, and
Last of Us.
But I mean, those are only 2 of their studios. I'm sure there are other ones, but those are the 2 that actually gave us that promise.
Yeah. Ratchet and Clank to me always look like a Pixar movie.
Yeah. I mean, even on the PS2, it looked like a Pixar movie, and now it when they got
really
more processing power,
So the first game I got from a PS3 was Resistance: Fall of Man, which was really good and really cool and really blew my hair back, but didn't really have that great of like a story impact. Like it was still just play through this level, get a cutscene. Play through this level, get a cutscene. It wasn't until Heavenly Sword came out that I really kind of started to see that glimmer
of what they were talking about,
promise.
Although it was weird with that. Like when you talk about realistic things, the physics on her hair was just crazy.
Yeah.
Like it would just go
crazy sauce banana pants.
Flying spaghetti monster on the back of her head type of deal.
Still a really cool game. I keep thinking every time I see that in the store, I'm like, I need to get that.
I picked that up for like $8 somewhere.
But it wasn't until that first Christmas with the PS3. Not the one that it launched, but the next one.
The one after. The first one, its first birthday, basically.
Yeah, its first birthday, with Uncharted. Yeah. I really saw, like, this Uncharted game is amazing.
Yeah, Uncharted as a series, like even the Vita version of Uncharted feels like you're playing an Indiana Jones movie. Yeah, like the whole thing.
And it looked great, the foliage and everything. And then like that whole scene where they're jumping out of the plane and he looks up and his parachute's on fire. He's screaming, damn it.
Yeah.
You're like, this is really good.
Yeah. Uncharted as a series, even though I've only played the Vita version and a little bit of 3 because it was free on Plus, is one of those series that you look at and you go, that is something that I really want to see again on the next system.
Yeah.
Like I want to see them take the ideas that they put into this and the abilities of their designers and their graphic artists.
So like actually make the guy look like he's actually climbing up the rough terrain and holding on to things.
That are actually there and not just, he's going to put his handhold here. This is just a series of animations.
Yeah, the realistic look of the half tuck.
Yeah.
Got to keep your shirt half untucked.
Because you never know.
You never know.
That way you're halfway either way. Like it's got to be formal, you put it in. If it's informal, you take it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after Uncharted, that's the summer after Uncharted, came Metal Gear Solid 4, which really delivered on this is a Hollywood movie experience that you are having. And it is like the first level sneaking through that vague Middle Eastern metropolis as Snake. Like, it was really awesome.
Yeah, I played the demo of that game. I never actually bought it because I'm not a big Metal Gear Solid fan. Like, I like the series, like I like the story of the series, but I don't really like the mechanics of sneaking around and especially when he was like, when you set him prone in 4, you set him prone on the middle of on the ground and he moves forward and it looks like he's just humping the ground and he moves forward. And he's
the worm.
Yeah, he does the worm, but it looks like he's ground humping.
So after that, we had Resistance 2, which I really liked.
And there was that whole weird. These were pre-rendered things with Resistance 2, right? Like the stuff
they wasn't like totally. It still wasn't. The cutscene wasn't in engine.
No.
But then I remember when Uncharted 2 came out. I remember getting it on a Tuesday. Like, I went home from work, got it on a Tuesday, dropped it off at home, went to my other job, came back, didn't have time to play it. Eventually, like, Friday, I got home in the middle of the day. My wife was just like, just go ahead and play it. And I just, like, I remember that night, I started Uncharted 2, like, in the middle of the day. That night, when I finally went to bed, I had just discovered the Nazis, air quotes.
They're not really Nazis, but they're Nazis.
And then playing the entire next day to get to the ending of the game, all of Saturday.
So you beat that game in a day and a half.
Yes. And just wanting to. And I remember my wife hanging out, like watching some of the cutscenes and stuff, and just how it bounced in and out of play. The whole scene where you're in the village and nothing's happening, you're just kind of like meandering through, seeing everyone doing everything. Like, that whole setup and everything, like, that was just awesome.
Yeah, and that's...
Like, I feel bad for Uncharted 3 that it had to come after 2, because 2, like, Uncharted 1 was a good game, but it wasn't amazing.
Well,
Uncharted 2 was, oh my god, that's freaking amazing. And then Uncharted 3, like, just met that line. It didn't have the grace of having to then surpass it.
And to be fair to Uncharted 1, that was Naughty Dog's, like, one of Naughty Dog's first games from the PS3.
Yeah.
So they were really getting used to the tech. They were trying to feel out what they could do. They were getting their hands in it.
Yeah.
2 and 3, they had already figured out, this is what we can do with this tech. Let's push it a little bit further. And then when they finally released, Last of Us, they had just been like, done. Done with you, PS3. Give us PS4. Done.
So for me, that's the PS3. Was that promise that it is going to be like a Hollywood. It is no longer going
cinematic gaming experience.
Yeah, there is no longer going to be the game and the cinematic, and then the game and then the cinematic. It is going to be all of it.
Yeah,
all the time.
Seamless transition between the two, and the cinematics will be as much as possible done in engine.
Yeah.
Depending on,
or at least
it's all developer.
Seem like they're in engine, like seem that it all fits that well together. Because Ni no Kuni, those cutscenes aren't done in engine.
Well, no, because
obviously
those are hand drawn a lot of
the
time.
But it all fits together so well.
Yeah. I don't know. My whole thing with this last generation was, I am not
you bounced around a lot.
I do. I bounced from the PS3 to the Xbox to the PC. I had a Wii at one point. But with the PS3, part of what it brought me into it was, hey, Blu-rays. My wife wanted Blu-rays, and we bought a TV, and it was like our PS3 TV for a long time. But it was, just the interconnectivity between it was so easy to connect two people online. Like, you did not need a subscription. All you needed was a screen name and a password.
Yep.
And part of what drew me in was, you were showing me Super Rub-a-Dub and things like that. But like, Fat Princess came out, and I was like...
Have you ever heard the funny story behind Super Rub-a-Dub? It was 2 weeks before the E3 where they announced the PS3.
Yeah.
Shuei Yoshida gets a call from one of the designers for the 6-axis at that time, the controller. And they go, hey, we just put this motion sensor in it. We need you guys to make a game to demo at E3.
Yeah.
And that was Super Rub-a-Dub.
Super Rub-a-Dub. It was a fun game. It was one of those games that you showed me like a couple of months after you got yours.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Playroom is for the PS4. It's just one of those, it's a game, but
it's also kind of a tech demo.
It's actually to show you how this thing's working.
Yeah. But games like Super Rub-a-Dub and Flow and things like that, like the arts, like specifically Flow and Flower and Journey, like those games, those kind of artsy games that they only put out on the PS3 because Sony was the only one that said, hey, we want games that are not just big explosions and dudes with big arms and things like that. We want some kind of artsy style games. And Flow was cool because you could you started with your little tadpole thing and
Yep.
you worked your way up. And Flower, you were just floating around. It was
Flower
really
was
cool.
like the Zen experience of gaming.
Yeah, and then Journey was just this big,
Like
massive
tears at the end
yeah,
of it,
this
like, oh god,
compelling
so
story. You're just lost in
beautiful.
this desert, and occasionally you'll get somebody that follows you and helps you guide you through the story.
Yeah.
So stuff like that is kind of what I remember most about the PS3, and also games like Fat Princess. They're the PSN games that you could play and play and play and play, and you would just have a blast.
The games that if it weren't for the PSN and its funky pricing structures, wouldn't have gotten released.
And there's part of that too. But that was one of the first games that I bought that multiplayer wise, I loved.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few games that I actually still have installed from when I first bought that PS3. When I replaced the hard drive, I re-downloaded that because it didn't transfer over or something. And just stuff like that. And then you've also got games like you got the classic game titles that they've got. You can get on the Wii, but you can't. I don't think you can get them on the 360. All those Genesis games that you have on yours. Just all that throwback stuff.
That Sega Sega Genesis collection is just a godsend.
Yeah.
And it's on the Xbox too.
It's also on the Xbox, but I'm talking about the standalone games like Gunstar Heroes. You have that on yours.
Yeah, I think you can get that on the Xbox.
And you just seeing that you have all this stuff on there, and it's like, damn.
Going through that list always makes me feel good.
Well, because it's like a mile long.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have
I
all that
always,
on the Xbox
no matter what mood I'm in, I go through that list. I always find something.
You find something that you want to play.
Yeah.
If only for 10 minutes.
On that note, to me, part of this generation has been taking the best things of PC gaming and making them easier.
And shoving them into a console.
Yeah.
Well, not shoving, but putting them into a console and making it work better.
Yeah. So online
simpler.
gaming just works.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't in the beginning. It was kind of bad.
Well, yeah. But even in the beginning, playing Resistance, you just went to the multiplayer thing on Resistance. It logged into the PSN, and that was you.
And then you were in there.
Here's all the games for Resistance.
Yeah.
But it just made it easier. It made having that online presence and persona easier, and then it also made getting those independent, cool titles easier.
Yeah. Their indie group is significantly larger than the cesspool that is Xbox Live Indie Arcade.
Yeah,
because there's just so much terrible stuff on there.
And it's curated. It's nice.
Yeah,
you do have to wait, 6 months or so to get Hotline Miami on your Vita or your PS3, but that 6 months has been it's going to work. It's going to test.
They QA'd it and it works out great. In fact, the Vita version is probably the best version of that game.
Oh, definitely
because you could touch and target and because playing it on the PC after playing it on the Vita was just a nightmare. Even with a controller, it was not good.
It's just one of those things. I think the PS3 did really well. We're taking all this PC stuff and we're just making it. It's just going to work and it's going to work well and be easy on you, the end consumer.
And then you think about some of the odd peripherals that came out for it, like the Move.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't highly supported.
When we talk about the end of this generation, I think the motion controls will be one of the things. Motion controls and band instruments will be two of the noble experiments.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the PS2 had Guitar Hero and stuff. So it really kind of started at the end of the PS2 era.
It started at the end of the PS2, but definitely had its heyday.
Oh, yeah. Everybody lost their mind with Guitar Hero. And
I think if you buy all of the things, they form up into one giant Voltron that only plays Aerosmith songs.
Well, that makes sense, right? Because you have the mic, and that would be where the head is, and then the drums is the bass,
is the body,
it's the feet.
Yeah, okay.
And then the guitars are the two arms.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, that's scary. I don't want Guitar Hero Voltron.
But SingStar is another way of taking that things that work on PC, Skype, having an online Facebook social presence, all these other things, and putting them in a game where they make sense. Mm-hmm. And it just works. It works well. Like being at parties at my place.
Yeah,
posting SingStar videos.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Except for when it's really bad. But that's part of karaoke. It's just supposed to be bad.
Well, that's the one thing. SingStar. Anytime someone comes over, I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna play SingStar." I'm like, "No, here, watch. Watch all these other buffoons in 50,000 other countries."
Yeah, and there's tons of people that play that game.
Dancing around like idiots.
I have a copy of SingStar somewhere.
To the same Kanye West song.
Yeah. Well, and then when they added move support, you could actually it would actually
dance with it.
Yeah. That was weird.
That was the only way I can ever beat my wife at Snake Star is if we do the dancing.
Yeah, if you have to do the dancing and the singing.
Yeah, but like motion controls work for things that they work for, like Super Rub-a-Dub. Mm-hmm. Like holding that controller like this and moving the
And
tub.
that's totally how you're supposed to play the game, is either one-handed or just going like this. You don't even touch the buttons.
Don't touch the buttons, just hold it between your hands and like juggle it. That's
Although
how
I think if you hit one of the buttons, it would do the bounce just as well as
you can just or you can just like
shake
that.
it. Yeah.
Or like Child of Eden.
I never played Child of
the
Eden.
Rez guys game.
Oh yeah, the spiritual successor to Rez.
Yeah, and having the Move controller in my hand and just being able to paint targets like a wand.
Oh yeah. That's what or
also
things,
light gun games.
Yeah, I was gonna say House of the Dead Overkill.
Like,
and
who would have thought we were gonna have a light gun game renaissance in that would have been 2009, 2008.
A couple of years ago, yeah. Yeah, House of the Dead Overkill was really good.
House of the Dead Overkill, Time Crisis Raising Storm.
And that weird pirate game that was with it.
Yeah.
I think I still have that installed. Thanks for the trophies, by the way. I
that-
got lots of trophies out of that.
Well, we played the crap out of that game. Let's see what else. The Shoot.
The Shoot was, it was like...
The actually good version of those Resident Evil railgun shooters.
Yeah, and House of the Dead, like House of the Dead proper, not the
Yeah.
Overkill Grindhouse version.
Well, they had House of the Dead 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I really wish they would have gone back, because they made that compilation disc of 1 and 2 for the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
They never made it for the PS3. I wish they would go back and do that.
Did they? I don't know. I remember seeing House of the Dead something, but I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
you can buy a retail version of House of the Dead Overkill, which
Mm-hmm.
has House of the Dead Overkill, and I think that's all it has on it.
But it has like the extended edition, so there's extra scenes.
Yeah, and then if I got it online in a Halloween bonus pack from Sega on the PSN of Overkill and then House of the Dead 4 and 3.
Oh, good. Well, at least you have 3 and 4, so you can, shoot zombies.
Yeah, I beat 3. I haven't beat 4. That's the other thing. Like we're talking about the online marketplaces, and like Sega being able to go out and like bundle their games in an easy way, and say like, hey, Halloween pack, here you go.
Yeah, or I've seen several times. You've seen like the Capcom and the Konami, and you've seen these bundles, and now you see these types of things on Steam all the time.
Yeah.
But now seeing them on a console it was kind of a neat thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, okay, 75% off everything that says Capcom, or all of this stuff that says Capcom on it.
Like
so you
here,
can get Super Puzzle Fighter for $3.
$15 gets you Super Street Fighter Hyper Turbo Remix, 2, Street Fighter 3, all the weird Capcom arcade games that they came out with in the early part of the generation. See, that's the other thing I think when we talk about Capcom and Namco and Sega specifically, and even Capcom, Namco, and Sega specifically, is at the beginning of the generation when they had the downloadable marketplaces, you saw them try to do stuff like Mercenaries, Wolf of the Battlefield, which was technically Commando 3, Mercs 2, which was a 3D polygons, not really well made looking thing. That was fun. Or they also had 1943 Joint Strike, I think is what it's called.
And that was a top-down shooter?
Yeah, it was basically 1942, like you know
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but it was like Crazy Sauce Banana Pants. Like giant lightning bolts shooting everywhere, and it was all 3D polygons and stuff.
Bullet hell from hell.
And you had like Sega with all the different versions of Sonic trying to
get Sonic
into something that he wasn't meant to be in.
Yeah, Poor Sonic. He got such a bad situation this gen.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it wasn't until 2008, I think. It's good that I remember 2008. That's when I got married. But it wasn't until I moved into that apartment with my wife that they started bringing out stuff like, hey, here's Gunstar Heroes, and not Gunstar Heroes remixed with 3D polygons.
Here's the original version of Gunstar Heroes.
Here's the 40 game Sega pack, and then Capcom's like, oh, that's doing stuff. Okay, well. We're gonna
Here's
build
the
this.
Capcom collection that's got 3 different Street Fighters and all these, 2D beat 'em ups and things like that.
We'll package that. We'll repackage that stuff from the PS2, but we'll break it up so like if you only want Ghosts and Goblins, or if you only want this, like here you go.
But then they still came out with like Sonic Sega collection, like we were talking about before, where it's got a really good smattering of Genesis games.
Yeah, and a Final Fight Double Impact. Not only do you get Final Fight, the arcade version, and you now get Magic Sword.
Yeah.
Or all the different versions of the Capcom the Capcom Fighters, where they had the Capcom versus Marvel Origins, which had Street Fighter versus X-Men and
Street
or
Fighter versus X-Men was a
the
good
Chronicles of Mystara, which I would have never in a billion years thought
we would ever see again.
Yeah, when we were rebuilding that arcade cabinet, people always asked us why we were doing it, and that was always like the one.
That
game
was one of those.
It was a couple
This
will never happen again.
And then they did it again, and we were all like, well. We have an arcade cabinet. Screw
Yeah, at least we've already been through that step. And just repackaging their old games in such a way that like it makes it fun to have it.
Yeah,
and it's new and it's easy to get.
And in some instances, they did the facelifts, right? Like they
Yeah.
made it 16:9 instead of being 4:3.
Yeah,
and all that,
which
but
was stretched, or they put on the different
They
filters.
put the
You can
bezels.
smooth it, you can crisp it, you can put
Yeah.
the bezel up, or you can have it look like you're looking over someone's shoulder at
which
the arcade.
I always thought that was kind of silly. Like,
but it's in there, you
Yeah.
know.
yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that and third-party developers have
Yeah,
done.
and the
but-
virtual console. We're not talking about the Wii right now.
No.
But the virtual console, I think, also did a good job of showing these publishers that hey,
we
these
have all
people
these.
will still pay for these things.
Yeah. We have all these games that people want to buy
Virtual
that they can't get a
console,
hold of in real life.
Yeah, PS1 classics.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think Square believed that anything that wasn't called Final Fantasy would sell on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then once stuff started to sell, they
They were like, oh well, here's Xenogears. If you guys will
and
build
here's
Chrono,
Chrono Trigger, and
you guys okay? Here's Chrono. Well, what else will you guys buy?
we'll buy everything. Okay.
Which is always funny when you look at the Japanese version of the store, the PlayStation 1 Classic store, and there's like thousands of titles.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
like you can tell there's like, we don't know what's going to like, or Monkey Paw Games,
Mm-hmm.
going back and getting those Japanese titles that will work
Mm-hmm.
for an American audience, like Sonic Wings, one of my favorites, and saying, yeah, we'll release this here. We won't even translate it.
yeah,
Like,
there's a hand like all the Mega Man, the PS1
yep,
Mega Man
PS1
games
Mega
are
Man
on
games.
the
I'm
store.
sure that was a shock to Capcom that those sold.
Well, it's not like you need to know the story of Mega
Yeah.
Man.
They're calling
Jump,
Really?
shoot, run right.
What? So, and getting those things and getting things that we would have never thought we would be able to get our hands on legitimately.
Because I mean, you could
I'm
always.
still waiting for Breath of Fire 3 to be a legitimate download so I can put it on my PS Vita.
It's not.
It's not. 4
Oh.
is. But 4 used to be my favorite because I'd never played 3, and then after I got halfway through 3, I was like,
I like 3.
3 is my favorite now.
Provided 3 doesn't end on a downer
Yeah.
and it sucks the rest of the way. But
It's just one of those things. Like I think this whole generation has been kind of growing pains.
Yeah.
From where the
Where systems were.
The PlayStation 2 era was 100% Sony. All these weird games. We'll just throw them out there and we'll see what people want, see what people can get. And then the beginning of this next generation, with the economic downturn and everything, people were closing up shop, running for the hills, getting out of gaming, saying gaming was over. The fact that the market was split 50-50 between Xbox and PS3.
Well,
people
it
didn't
was
know-
probably more like 40-40-10.
Yeah,
40,
well,
45,
I'm talking
45,
about the
10.
HD
But
market.
yeah,
The
yeah.
HD market.
Yes. Well, now
And
it's-
people like with the Wii, like throwing a bunch of money behind the Wii, and then that not panning out because the audience wasn't there.
Yeah.
And like everyone just being up in the air, like, what are we going to do? I don't think anyone really found their footing until 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh wait, we
Which-
can repackage these old games and sell them on this online store, while we can also, give little bits of money to different developers to make these little games that
That we
have,
can
like,
sell
no
for
overhead.
$5-10 instead
Yeah.
of full $60.
Mega Man 9 and 10, they were like, I guess maybe
Here.
they'll sell.
$10. Here's a brand new Mega Man game.
Yeah, let's
okay.
see. Whoa, you guys ate that up. That's crazy sauce
We're gonna
banana
do it
pants.
again.
Here's Mega Man 10 next year. We'll see what.
Maybe they'll come out with Mega Man 12 in a couple years.
Sonic,
Or 11.
Sonic 4 came. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 came out.
The episode 1
and 2.
and yeah. How many was that? How many did they actually make it through?
Episode 1 and 2.
So they haven't made it to 3 and 4 yet?
No.
Are they going to?
I don't know.
Probably not.
But episode 1 and 2 are as long as Sonic 1 is.
So a
Sonic
couple
1
hours
game.
each.
Yeah. And they're both really good and worth playing. And I'm sure Sega was like, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
They released that Virtual Fighter collection that was Virtual Fighter 2, Fighting Vipers, and Sonic the Fighters, which once again, they were kind of like, here, maybe
Yeah.
it'll sell. Even Sony, with that whole core digital magazine format,
yeah.
they didn't know what they were doing. They were like, maybe we can make a show for you guys. And we'll
And
give you
that would be
things."
cool. I mean, that was kind of cool for a long, long time.
Yeah, PlayStation Home is the best version of maybe this will work and we'll just go ahead and make it.
And they just keep doing it. But if you look, it's funny because I've seen.
If you go into PlayStation Home now, I haven't been in over a year and it was totally unrecognizable to me.
Yeah, because when I remember, you just had that one big square, and then there was the
Yeah.
movie theater in the mall and all that.
Yep, and now that's totally gone.
Well, isn't there a huge disparity between the U.S. version and the Japanese version of Home?
Yeah, they look totally different. And the European version looks different as well.
Yeah.
They're all built around what we would want to see.
In our region.
Yeah, there's a New York Bronx looking area in the North American version that is not in either of the versions, to my knowledge.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just
But also my favorite place to hang out in PlayStation Home has always been and will always be the Japanese festival. And I have the Ghostbusters firehouse as my apartment, so.
So yeah, you're just like, whatever. I'm gonna ride the fire pole.
Yeah, ride the fire pole.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff that happened between the PS2 and the end of the PS3. Is you've had your store. We've talked exclusively, exhaustively about the store. The online multiplayer was kind of there at the end of the PS2 with like Final Fantasy 11.
But the network adapter network adapter worked in the way that PC gaming works.
Yeah, and
there are hurdles, but if you get it going, it's good.
Yeah.
But this all just worked.
Yeah, and then you have your friends list that you never had before. But then again, you didn't ever have online really before. Yep. So having a friends list just made it easy for you to find your buddies.
And you had places to go find new friends.
Yeah,
if you want to play games with people, go to home. Like that's how I played Warhawk all the time.
Well, not even that.
I don't want to play Warhawk with. I'm just going to go to the home space and be like, you guys don't want to play Warhawk, and load into a game of Warhawk.
Yeah, and you could also whenever you played, if you found like 5 or 6 people that were really cool that you thought you'd like to play with, you could just add them to your list by going to your people you have played with list. So it's made it real easy to do the online thing, and you're right. They took a lot of things from PC gaming
and from Xbox
and made
Live
them
too.
and made them work in a console space.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons we've had so much iteration in this generation.
Yeah, and that's
firmware update, update. Man, Sony loves their firmware updates.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And just having all this stuff going on, and just I hope. The reason we didn't see all this turmoil last generation, the PS2 generation, is because PS2 had 70% of the market. And
yeah, it had a huge chunk of the market.
And they didn't have to innovate as much.
Well, and
when they did it in ways like the network adapter.
Well, and in the end of the generation, it just had the network adapter built in.
Yeah.
Like the PS Slims had it, but they had no space for a hard drive.
Yeah.
But it did have USB ports. Probably been okay.
And that kick in the pants that I think Xbox gave Sony by taking so much of their market share is really kind of one of those things. They were like, wait, we need to figure out a new game plan, and we need to figure out a new way to do this.
Yes.
Same thing with the Wii. That's why the Move came around, because the Wii was doing so well. They were like, oh, we need to rethink this thing, and we need to make... That was one of the good things about the PS3 and about the PS4 going forward, is that they're built to change.
Yeah. I mean, you can add to them. They're like Legos. You get a base, and then you build on it.
And I think this past generation has been kind of a steady growing experience. Whereas the last generation was, this is the PS2.
This is all you get. This is your box. Have fun.
Make the games happen. And it wasn't like the last time we had upheaval every time we have upheaval in the console video game space, it's when a new console comes out.
Well, yeah, because that's when your foundation changes.
Yeah. But this last generation, the upheaval was kind of continued.
Yeah, it was always rumbling and never really settled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would never say the PS3 was finished.
Done.
Yeah. Even now, there's totally stuff that I'm sure Sony has on the burner, oh yeah, we're going to do a network update to the PS3 January.
There's going to be new firmware.
Yeah.
Because every 3 months there's a new firmware.
Yeah. They were like, we're going to keep changing this. And even with, the hits they took from the network hack and having to come back from that and say we are going to I think as a company, they weren't used to continually rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
In a way that Microsoft was, because they had
been behind on the last gen.
Well, and Microsoft had a basis with an OS and having to continually update and patch Windows.
Yeah, yeah.
They knew they were going to have to do that. I don't think Sony did. I think Sony's like, we make the box,
and then the box goes, and then people want new features, and now we've got to add them, and that's one of the things that also is some of these things didn't work right out. They had to do them a couple of times in order to get it to work, because you were taking this box and you were bolting stuff onto the side that maybe it wasn't necessarily designed to do initially.
XMB.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember when that was a big thing.
Well, yeah, because you could pause the game and then go do something else and check your messages or whatever.
Yeah, but you used to not be able to do it. You used to back out of the game to get to your messages, to get to your friends list and all that other stuff. And it was just kind of, I don't think Sony found their stride with the PlayStation 3 until 2008.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone else knew what to do for 2 years after that.
Yeah.
But I hope the PlayStation 4 is in both more settled in the fact that they're used to this, there's not that much upheaval, but also will change more too.
Yes.
So find new ways to excite and amaze me.
Higher polygon count, better textures, and more shadows and shaders.
Well, yeah, but we know we're getting that.
Yeah, yeah, I know. You're talking about new ways to connect to new people and things like that.
Or that PlayStation app looks really cool to me. I can't wait to put that on the Nexus 7. So, if I'm in a game and I just want to type out a message to someone really quickly, I can just pop open the Nexus 7 and
Yeah.
type it and then go back to the controller.
Without using the controller, because typing on a controller kind of sucks. Although you can use a
Apparently they figured out a new way to do it too.
Well, you could
like-
probably just use
Well, yeah,
the
but it has to
touchpad.
do with tilting it as well. They're like, it's very new, but it makes sense is what they've said.
Huh.
We
I
don't
mean,
know
also,
yet.
you think about it, you can use a keyboard on the PS4. Like a USB keyboard straight out will work. A
Yep.
mouse won't, but a keyboard will.
Yep.
So.
So have a good week, and we'll see you soon.
Enjoy your PS4s, you lucky jerks.
Yeah, if you have a PS4, enjoy your PS4. And if you're looking forward to the Xbox One, hey, it's only a week away.
Unless you're one of those Target people that got it 2 weeks ago.